again with our Igniting Hope podcast. Today, we want to have a very important conversation about maternal health, what's going on with uh, Black women, all women, but in particular Black women who are at risk for so much in this country. And one of the sad things about it is that, you know, one of the greatest gifts that's given to humanity is the ability to produce life, right? I mean, you think about if you're
Yeah.
those who follow the Bible, you'll see that one of the first blessings that God gave to humanity was the ability to give life, right? And and sadly, too many of our women uh, are struggling in the birthing process. Um, there is a crisis in our community around maternal health. Let me just share a couple facts to you. Black women experience maternal deaths. That means, in the birthing process, 2 to 3 times higher than white women. And one of the things that happens in the birthing process is not only this physical uh, event, but it's a deeply spiritual and emotional and mental um, process. And what we're finding is that many Black women are experiencing mental health crisis in postpartum. Um, it is reported that uh, over 50% of Black women will experience um, maternal mental health challenges. And even though Black women are more likely to experience postpartum maternal health challenges, they're less likely to receive uh, uh, services. Black mothers are 6 times more likely uh, than the general population to experience depression, symptoms of depression uh, postpartum. And what that means is that we've also seen a high rate or an increasing rate of suicide attempts for Black women postpartum. And so we have to do something about it. All these things, all these statistics that I shared are are fixable. They're treatable. There's nothing inherently biologically, physiologically wrong with Black women. Um, these are all reactions and responses to the social environment, the lived environment, the conditions that Black and Brown folks are find ourselves in this place called America. And there are people in community that are doing some very important work. Just a few weeks ago, we had a maternal health conference, Buffalo Center for Health Equity, and if you want to go onto our website, go to buffalohealthequity.org, buffalohealthequity.org, and you can see some information from our event, our maternal health event, and I had brought in some experts from UCLA and the Charles Jewell Medical School, and Dr. Lisa Nicholas, my sister, and Dr. Brandy Dujoulin. We brought in from Pittsburgh experts from Dr. Uh, Larkins Pettigrew, who is a leader in the field around maternal health. And we talked about things that we need to do here in Buffalo to help our women. As part of that conversation was our guest for this Igniting Hope podcast, Shannon Johns. Shannon is the CEO of the Calming Nature Doula Services and Center, and Shannon has really used her story, and not only her story but her skills, her knowledge to do everything that she can to address the issues around the crisis that's going on with maternal health with Black women, women of color in particular, but not exclusively. I mean, her services are available to everybody, but uh, focusing on women within our own communities that are struggling so much. So, Shannon, I'd like to invite you into the space this afternoon, or and why don't you share a little bit about some of the things that I shared about what's going on with our women and maternal health, and what are some of the things that you know what do you think some of the things are that are driving that, and what are some of the things we can do to turn those numbers around?
Yes, thank you very much, Pastor George, for inviting me. I really do appreciate it, and it's a complete honor to be on this podcast with you and part of the Igniting Hope Conference. As Pastor George said, I am the CEO of Calming Nature Doula Service and Center. But in addition to being a birth doula, I'm also a postpartum doula, a certified lactation consultant, and a childbirth educator. So all of those kind of different areas together can help to make improvements to maternal health by providing information and education to individuals when they do become pregnant. But we really like to meet with them before they become pregnant so they know what direction they should be moving into once they actually are pregnant and continue on from there. Some of the factors that can contribute to those disparities and those numbers specifically for Black women is there's a lot of lack of trust. There's a lot of lack of education. There is also too a lot of just kind of awareness as to what decisions they should be making when they're pregnant, but also too once they actually do become pregnant, understanding that they have options and that they are allowed to change their mind and change the direction in which they're going in. We know for a Black woman, we don't have to follow and mirror what has been done and how we've been treated historically. We have the option now. We have that space, and we essentially have the choice to say, "I don't want this. I would prefer this. This sounds like a better option to me. This is actually going to be more beneficial, not only to me, my pregnancy, but also too more beneficial to my baby and the overall development and growth of the baby as the baby moves forward into life." So here in Buffalo, we've done a couple things. One of the things that we have done is we were the only county in New York State that participated in the New York State Medicaid pilot program. That pilot program for doula services covers doula support for any Medicaid recipient that lived in Erie County for 5 years from 2019 until January 1st of this year. And then January 1st of this year, doula services is now are covered by Medicaid to any mom throughout New York State. And that is because of the work that we did here in Erie County. They know that doula services helps to reduce a ton of different factors around maternal health, around birth outcomes, but also to overall mental, emotional, and physical well-being of the mother during pregnancy and labor and postpartum. It helps to reduce those factors. It helps to reduce the instances and the occurrences of her having traumatic birth experiences and just having poor birth outcomes, but also too the biggest one, lower likeliness of NICU admission for the baby. So the baby does have to go to the NICU. There's also statistics that show that they don't have they don't have as long of a duration stay while they're in the NICU. They leave the NICU sooner if the mom has quality doula support.
So the notion of a doula, um, and I remember at our conference, we talked about a quality doula or a professional doula or a well skilled doula. And like everything,
Yeah.
like all ministers aren't the same, all athletes aren't the same, all doctors aren't the same. They're levels, they're levels, they're
Yes.
levels. And um, so tell me what the role of a doula is, and how that doula, first works with the patient, and then how the doula can work as part of the birthing team.
Sure, absolutely. So the role of a doula is to be a professional support system or service for the mom and her family, which means we work with the mom, providing her with information, education, preparing her for whatever her um, for whatever her description is for what she wants her birth experience to look like, but additionally providing that support to whoever is a part of her birthing team that's also a part of her family. So her husband, boyfriend, her partner, her sister, her grandmother, her cousin, her auntie, whomever else it may be that's going to be there with her, informing them, educating them, and making sure that they are aware of all the options, but also too, that they make informed decisions. So an informed decision comes along when they have all the information they need to get to the point where they're making a decision that's going to be beneficial to them and the baby. A lot of times women, especially Black women, we get this much. It's like, oh, this is just better for you. This is going to be easier. This is going to be healthier. This is going to help you. But none of those are actual things that will help. You're just giving me a statement. We need actual information. We need actual facts. We need actual actionable items, essentially. We need those things. But if you just say, oh, it'll just be better, for some, that's all that they'll get. And they don't really know and understand what that better means. And that better is based off of that individual's description, which may not mirror the mother's description of better. So it makes a difference of how they're informed, how they're educated, will help them get to the point where they say, okay, this is the direction I really want to continue in, or this no longer fits me. This is not the service that I'm looking for. This is not the experience that I'm looking to have. And if you look at the numbers statistically, it just doesn't look good for us. And it's because of a lot of those factors where we're not really given information. We're not really given choices, but we're not told that there are options.
So when you think about birth outcomes, and let's talk again specifically about Black women, the social determinants of health. So we here at the Buffalo Center for Health Equity, our mission is to eliminate race-based health disparities in this region. We don't believe that your race, your location, your ethnicity should be a driving factor of having poor health outcomes. And so with so many Black women who in this region who are facing some serious social challenges, like safe housing and dealing with the gaps in education, lack of access to healthy food, our air and water quality in many of our communities is worse than in other communities. How do all those social factors, those dynamics that people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, how does that impact health outcomes as it relates to the birthing process for our community?
I apologize. My service went off for a quick second, so I missed part of the question, but I get the basis of what you're asking. Right. Social determinants of health can. Okay. Social determinants of health can make a difference for a lot of these factors. And the things that we have to really look at and consider is that we are creatures of habit. We do what we're taught. We learn from our mothers learn from their mothers, they learn from their mothers, and so on and so forth. So if you look at historically the Black culture here in the United States, where did our culture come from? Where did it originate? What behaviors, what actions did we all learn, and where did we learn them from? And it's passed down from generation to generation. So if you look at, sadly, a good large number of African American people here in this region, they do what their grandmother told them to do, and their grandmother did what her grandmother told her to do, and so on and so forth. So now, if you look back to that time frame, they lived in a survival mode. They lived in a space where they did these things to stay alive, not did these things to live, not did these things because it was overall beneficial, because it was better. It was like, this is how you stay alive. This is how you actually get to stay with your mother. This is how you actually get to stay with your siblings. This is how we prevent you from hopefully being sold or killed. So if you take those behaviors, you take that, in a sense, kind of coping mechanism to live and survive, this is what we're taught. This is how, we still live in that same mindset, in a survival mode. So survival says, okay, do this, this, and this. Listen to the doctor. Don't ask questions. Don't talk back. Don't make any changes that weren't approved by the doctor. So now, but that's through our, multiple areas throughout our lives. So if you look at those factors, right? Your grandmother gave birth. What did the doctor tell her? Oh, they said, do this, and do this. So that's what I did. Well, so-and-so had a different experience, but also too, Black women get labeled differently. They get labeled as non-compliant. They get labeled as argumentative. They get labeled as really kind of disruptive or a disturbance. They're interference in their own care because you're not doing what they told you to do. You don't necessarily have to do what they told you to do, depending on the situation. Life or death type situation for mom or the baby during labor is different, but for just regular routine care, you have options. You have the option, you have the ability, you have the right to ask questions and make decisions. You don't have to follow that route. So if you consider all those factors, when it comes to our behaviors, our essentially the Black culture within this community, all of those things make a difference. All of those things come into play. So if your sister, your mom, your girlfriend, everybody in your immediate circle and in your community, they got an induction at, right on the day of their due date, even though medically nothing was wrong, what do you think is supposed to happen on your due date? So you follow that same behavior, you follow that same pattern.
So these issues around maternal health, when you think about, the origins of the field of OBGYN and how, Dr. Sims, during the enslavement of African people here in America, used the bodies of enslaved women to experiment on how the best practices in obstetrics and gynecology, and has never really been held accountable about that, performing procedures upon enslaved women without anesthesia, just to see the level of pain tolerance, and just the brutality and the inhumanity of how Black women have been treated in this republic, going, back from the times when our people first came to this part of the world, and the continuing dehumanization and the nullification of Black women in our culture. How does that contribute to some of these poor health outcomes as it relates to maternal health? When we know that Black women, they will experience depression in ways that are different than how white women will to experience depression. Right. And Black women are more likely to self-report irritability and self-criticism and self-blaming, and Black women are more likely to look insular and turn to blaming themselves for how they feel, right?
Right.
And the system perpetuates that. So how do we get our culture, our society, to begin to start listening to Black women and to valuing Black women in the fullness of their humanity, as opposed to objectifying them or layering our own presuppositions about how they should or should not feel or should not act? So how does all of that kind of social dynamic play a role in the work that you're trying to do?
So let's kind of start almost at the beginning or the base. It's almost like part of like an indoctrination, right? The providers go to school and this is what they learn. So what's in their book is that's their Bible, essentially. That's their goal. That's where they get their information. That's what they to believe 100% correct and accurate. So if your book tells you when you're learning to be a part of this profession, this is what has to be done in your mind, that's where you stay. This is what has to be done. This is the routine. This is the process. These are the steps, even if they're not accurate. And for some, they're not accurate. But also, too, there's new information, current research, new evidence, new recommendations that are being made that aren't followed because they're used to going down this pathway, they're used to this road, this direction, and that's what they stay with. So for us as individuals, we have, again, the right, the option to say, I need more information. I need to change directions. I have to ask more questions. And if you, and essentially as a provider that's supposed to be supporting me and giving me this information and attending to my mental, emotional, social needs through healthcare, if that's not working for you, then you have the option, go find somebody else that actually is working for you. You don't have to stick with that route, but it has to be something that we start to believe as a cultural norm, that we don't have to stick to the routine. We have the option to change directions, which is where a lot of us become very, kind of timid, sometimes afraid, sometimes too, nervous or scared. And it's valid to be nervous and scared in this, because historically we change the direction, we make a decision and we make a change that has not been approved, we suffer from it. So for us, a lot of times when it comes to specifically this, or concerns of postpartum depression and mental health, if I ask for help, they're going to judge me, and then they're going to put me in some program and service, and I'm now at risk of losing my child or my children. So you don't say anything. But then also too, there becomes the cultural judgment of, what do you mean you can't handle it? I did it. I did this. I did that. I had twice as many kids. I had 3 times as many kids as you had. And I had 2 jobs. And I did this. And I had to do this. And I was by myself. I didn't have a husband. So you have all of these other factors kind of weighing in on her decision as to how can she truly ask for help and receive the help that she truly needs. And for some, it's not worth the risk to take that chance because of the fear of the outcome. Yes, and that's where it becomes worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's where it becomes a worse case of postpartum depression, and sometimes moves into postpartum psychosis, and ultimately for some, suicide.
So
because they don't know where to go.
You threw something out there, postpartum depression to postpartum psychosis. Kind of give us some clarity on that.
So postpartum depression is a less severe case than postpartum psychosis, but it's more severe than like baby blues or just kind of feeling sad or feeling down. When you move into postpartum psychosis, it now severely affects their psychological state, where they do become very irrational. They typically sometimes will have thoughts and feelings of harming themselves and or harming the baby, and sometimes do, or sometimes they just get to the point where they are really needing medical attention and sometimes medication, which is very harmful, very concerning. But if they don't know that it's not normal, and if they don't seek help, and if they have everybody around them like, oh no, you good, you got it. All you got to do is just this. Just no, wake up, snap out of it. Just go do this, but not truly support them the way that they need the support, it ends up in a bad situation and is never truly identified. And even if she does go to the doctor, kind of like what you said, Black women present differently, just how like Black children present differently than white children. Black children are labeled as behavioral issues. Well, it's not that he's behavior. He just had, a rough day at home. Things happen. And this is how he presented, that he was stressed out, that he was panicked, that he was scared. Because, boys in general, but especially Black boys, Black men, you're not allowed to say you're scared. You're not allowed to say, I need help. You're not allowed to move into that role where now you may be presenting yourself as weak. And it's not weak. It's just everybody needs help. And it's okay and acceptable to ask for some, but not all.
So there's a concept that I want us to kind of spend a few minutes on. And we're here. This is Igniting Hope, the Igniting Hope podcast. I'm Pastor George Nicholas, CEO of the Buffalo Center for Health Equity. I'm here with Shannon Johns, the CEO of Calming Nature's Doula Services and Center. And one of the things I want to talk about real quickly is this notion of weathering. Structural and systemic racism is not just some kind of a theoretical idea, right? I mean, there are real mental and physical consequences to being Black in America and dealing with the constant pressure of structural and systemic racism that will manifest itself in the challenges that we talked about in the social determinants of health and as it relates to housing and employment and how we interface with the police,
Yeah.
access to healthy food. All these things, structural and systemic racism plays a role in this. And the concept of weathering is a concept where Black women are their bodies are aging quicker and faster due to and have a higher rate or higher exposure to chronic disease because of the social economic disadvantages and the constantly dealing with not only structural and systemic racism, but also dealing with a gender bias and you know, and then even within the church, which can be very misogynist in its interpretation of spirituality, dealing with patriarchal systems that will diminish the role of a woman, and then also the mythology about the the disconnect or the how society tries to pit the Black man against the Black woman, right?
Mhm.
As if as if the Black woman is the biggest threat to the Black man, or the Black man is the biggest threat to the Black woman, and ignoring all these historical and social dynamics of structural and systemic racism that we've been dealing with since 1619 in this republic. And so my question to you is that one is how is that you see that manifesting itself, this weathering in the women that you're dealing with, and then what are some of the things that we can do, within our own community to better
Mhm.
support Black women, because we acknowledge and understand the trauma that's going on through this process of weathering.
Yes. So with weathering, the biggest things with weathering is that it has the effect on their physical health. So Black women also too have higher rates and instances of chronic heart disease. So you already have issues, and sometimes they're unknown. So you have a heart condition or concerns or issues with your heart, it affects your blood flow. So then now you become pregnant, and then now your body is trying to figure out how to live in this stressful environment for itself, and also to now live in an environment where the baby can grow, thrive, and get to the point where they're developing correctly, and they're getting to the point where they make it to what's considered full term. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But then also too, now you have to consider after the fact mom gives birth, she may have issues, she may have concerns, but if she expresses them, if they're not listened to, the mom's not listened to, they're not followed, then now it leads into other health factors. So all of those things play a role. But then now also too, you have to consider where the mom's psyche is during this time. If she's had these experiences throughout her entire life, now the person that says, "Hey, I'm here to help you," you look just like the person that abused me. How do
Mm,
I differentiate between the two? How do I know that you're really truly trustworthy and that you really are working on my behalf, or if you have your own agenda behind it? So now the mom's in this space of which direction do I go in, which then now turns into more stress, more concerns, more issues. And if she sometimes takes that minute to kind of decide, what do I do? She may now be labeled as non-compliant because she's not listening. So then they'll send a social worker in to ask for some more questions. And if she doesn't answer those questions correctly, she doesn't answer those questions the way that they want her to answer those questions, now she's put into this category. She's put into this box. So now she's even more stressed. She's more worried. And now, instead of focusing on her health and focusing on the things that will make her better, she's adding to it unintentionally, unknowingly, because she thought she was asking for help. and they weren't really trying to give her the type of help that they need. They wanted to give her the type of help that they felt like she deserved.
Why is it so hard
And their definitions of help is different.
yeah, so why is this so hard for us as Black men to see that our sisters are in need? What is that all about? You know what I mean? It's just like,
Oh, Pastor George, that's such a hard question.
why don't we even look for it, right? I mean, it's like, you know, sometimes I see folks just struggling, and the person that claims to love that person and is so concerned about that person, but is just completely oblivious to what that woman is going through. Is it that our eyes
um,
haven't been trained to see it?
you haven't been given to me, you haven't been given the space or the grace to acknowledge it and say it.
mm,
So if you think of, especially with, again, little Black boys, what are they taught? Be strong, don't cry, you better not cry, don't show any emotion. I need you to be this stone cold person.
right, right,
Again, that's survival.
right.
Look back a few hundred years ago, that was survival. This is how they were taught. This is how you were groomed. This is how you were raised. So now you have these same behaviors that are taught. This boy is growing up. Maybe he didn't have anybody that showed him any positive positive feedback, positive reinforcements, anything that was really motivating. And now he's got somebody pregnant and she's like, I need you emotionally. And he's like, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
That's scary to me. This is something that makes me feel uncomfortable. This is something that I'm now afraid of. And he doesn't show up the way that she is expecting him to, but he's showing up the way that he knows how to. It creates a issue. It creates a barrier. So then now she goes back. She tells her sister, her mother, her girlfriend, her grandmother. So now he's got all these women just in his face,
Yeah.
berating him, checking him. He's going to panic. And for most of them, they like, I'm not dealing with this. I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to process it. So I'm out. I'm leaving because I can't do it. It's not that they don't want to.
Right.
They just don't have the tools to do it. And if they haven't been given the space to learn how to do it, that's going to make it even more challenging for them.
So, a lot of times, and I think we sometimes, without intention,
Mm-hmm.
will, create this mythology of this, Wonder Woman, Black woman syndrome, right? The superwoman, right?
Yeah.
And, just because, you watch those Olympics, and just because Simone Biles can do what she does or Sydney McLaughlin can do what they do, doesn't mean all Black women can do that.
Mm-mm.
And they don't have to be able to do that, right?
You don't have to be able to do that.
Right.
That's not what God gave them. God gave that to Simone. God gave that. No.
And so how do we stop romanticizing this notion? Because it's really harmful. It really is, because I see so many Black women trying to fulfill a role that's completely unfair,
Mm-hmm.
unrealistic, harmful to them. And then also seeing, as you say, sometimes Black men, when Black women fall short of that, almost be critical of them, right? Because again, like you said, well, they've seen their mother do all this other stuff. And a lot of times people, they exaggerate, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? A lot of brothers don't realize, yeah, your mama was going through all this crap too, but maybe she hit it back differently, and maybe maybe your mother needed someone to be more present with her than maybe the men in her life were able to do, but don't use that as an excuse to not be present with the woman in your life, right? So how do we push through this? Because this is a very critical conversation, because while we're waiting for the social structures, the policies and things that we're working on to try to make it an environment for that's a healthier environment for Black women to have children and go through the birthing process. That's going to take a minute, right? But right now, there are Black women that are pregnant right now. There are Black women right now that have recently had children, and so who really don't have the time for us to make these lofty but necessary and obtainable structural changes. We're going to make them,
Yeah.
but it's going to take us a minute. So in the immediate future, in the immediacy of where we are right now, uh, what can we do? What do we need to do, like right now,
Um,
to make things
yeah.
better for ourselves?
One, stop fantasizing and romanticizing about somebody else's life and do the same for your own life. Accept that who you are and where you are in this point in life, and then set goals and expectations of yourself to get you to the point where you feel better and you feel like you're living your whole self. You're being your whole self and living your full life. If you're constantly looking and worrying about what somebody else is doing and how they're moving, then that means you're not walking on your own path. You're not moving in the direction that you should be moving because you're too busy looking at theirs. So it's going to make more of a conflict for you. But also, too, everybody is not the same. Like what Simone Biles does is phenomenal. It is amazing. But again, that's what God gave her. What did God give you? Put more emphasis, more effort, and energy into that and build that up. And that will get you to the point where you do feel like you are at that point where you are successful or you do feel better and overall have more confidence in yourself. But that also portrays and goes along with your health. If you know, like, oh, I feel better doing this, then that's what you do. And that and kind of be free, how do I say this? Just let go of other people's opinion of you.
Yes.
If you a lot of times one of the things that we'll see is that we will see a young mom come in and she'll say, I want to have my baby at home, and we'll say, okay, great, here's the steps, this is how it's done. I want to have my baby in the water. All right, great, here are the steps, this is how it's done. And then her mother will come in and her mom will say, no, that's not safe, that's not good, you can't do this, you can't do that, you have to get an epidural, they have to induce you, they have to break your water. No, they don't. Those are all indications when it's needed, not a routine practice because you can. But if that's the mother's experience, and sometimes it's not intentionally that the mom is doing this to give the daughter a bad experience, but this is all that she knows. This is all the information that she can relay to help and support her daughter the best way that she can because that was her experience. So unintentionally, she set her daughter up to have the exact same type of traumatic experience that she had because that's what she knows. So if the daughter says, oh, I really want to do this, and the mom says, no, I don't think you should do that. And then, of course, the Black culture, we're not really going to argue back with our mother. We definitely not arguing back with our grandmother. My grandmother said, I have to do this. My grandmother told me, just listen and do what the doctor told me to do. Well, do you understand these are the factors that you're being faced with, that you're being presented with, that if you follow this recommendation from the doctor, even though it's not best fit for you, and it doesn't necessarily apply to you because you're not at that risk factor, you're more than likely to have this type of experience. You're more than likely to have these things happen. You're more than likely to have higher rates of postpartum depression because you let somebody else have your birth experience versus you writing it yourself. And for a lot of them, they do end up with postpartum depression. They end up having these experiences. It's like, dang, I really wish I had to listen to you. I really wish I had to did this. And I don't know why this isn't working. Now I'm having trouble with this. And then also too, this goes along with breastfeeding. So breastfeeding actually helps to lower the instances or the rate of, not instances, but the rate of triple negative breast cancer in Black women if they breastfeed. So we are already at a higher rate of triple negative breast cancer just because we're Black, because of that weathering, because of socioeconomic issues, but also because of systemic racism. We are already at higher risk. So when we become pregnant, it increases that risk because pregnancy is very stressful on the body. So then now, if a mother breastfeeds, her risk drops lower than what it did prior to pregnancy, just because of the hormone factors that are associated when it comes to breastfeeding and how the body heals and recovers from breastfeeding. But if you have a mother, a sister, a grandmother, an auntie that all said, oh, that's for white people, we don't breastfeed. Well, we don't do that. That's nasty, girl. Though that's real sick. That's kind of disturbing. That's real nasty. These is for my man. And the mother chooses not to breastfeed, and she really wants to breastfeed. Now she's going to have these conflicting emotions and feelings inside of her. Like, I really want to do it, and I think I can. I feel like I can do it, but I don't have no support. My support system is not supporting me for what I want. So then now she doesn't breastfeed, and she has these concerns and she has these issues. But also, too, we know babies that breastfeed have better overall health outcomes. They don't have as many ear infections, um, um, uh, like
Right.
ringworms. It's issues with their gut. It's a slew of different things that happen when babies receive formula versus breast milk. So now this mom is taking this baby back and forth to the doctors, doing all this other stuff that she may not have had occurred if she had stuck to her instinct and her desire for the type of experience that she wanted.
Shannon, thank you so much for, just for sharing with us. This is a long journey that we're
It
going to go
is.
on together. We have some really good ideas, plans, thoughts of things that we're going to do here in this community. We're going to, we have a vision to create a birthing center that's going to be a safe and supportive
Yeah.
space for all women, but in particular women who are from our own community, to be able to get that support, get that. It's all about creating a caring community, um, and sometimes, you know, the people that are closest to you, by because you related or because you go to the same church or because of whatever, those aren't always the best people for you in your life, right?
Mm-mm.
Uh,
No.
Often they can be, but sometimes you got folks around you that they're not really for you, and so we need to create spaces for that folks can come and just be loved on, just to be supported, just to be lifted up. We got to learn how to lift each other up and to support it. That
Absolutely.
will you know is that a cure all? No. Do we still have to deal with structural racism? Yes. Do we still have to deal with the social determinants of health? Yes. Do we still have to deal with policy and all these other things? Yes, 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 yes. But we can right now uh, be intentional about dealing creating a community of caring, of support, of love. Uh, when we see, when we have women in our lives that are in the birthing process or right after the birthing process, we can extend ourselves. We can, we can go the extra mile. We can be concerned. And I say this to brothers, we have to begin to condition our minds and our thinking to, to be attentive and supportive to the
Yeah.
needs and the emotional needs. Uh, you know, being a man is that's not what you can physically do or not do, right?
No.
Intimacy is not limited to the expression of our sexuality, but it's in the connection of the human spirit between people, and we can do better at that, and kind of create a healthier environment. And so we're
Mhm.
committed and dedicated to doing that. And so, Shannon, would you just share a little bit about how we can get in contact, those who are listening? You're listening to the Igniting Hope podcast. How, if they want more information about Calming Nature Doula Services and Center, if they want to, if they're pregnant, and they want some help, or they got a friend of theirs that's pregnant that they want to make sure they get some help, or if they want to be a help, if they feel
Yeah.
like, wow, here's something I can I can volunteer with or be a part of or offer some support to. Tell them how they get in contact with you.
Sure, absolutely. So you guys can give us a call directly, 716-768-4758. You can also find us on pretty much all social media platforms under Calming Nature Doula. And then you can also visit our website at www.calmingnaturedoula.com.
So, and we're going to, Sherman, we're going to put that link to, if it's not already up there on our website, buffalohealthequity.org. Uh, that if, so if a person goes on our website, and then we're going to put a link up there on ours to go get right to you as well, Shannon. So, because it's all about bringing our folks
Beautiful. Thank
together
you.
and making connections. So this has been
Absolutely.
the latest episode of Igniting Hope podcast. Shannon, you have something else you want to share before we sign off?
I think just yeah, I think just the last pointer and kind of a really helpful factor is ask questions and talk to more than one person.
Yes.
If you depending on what you know, what the mom says, this is what I really think labor and birth should look like, and this is how I feel, and this is what I want. Seek out somebody that has had that experience. Because if you ask a bunch of people that you had the exact opposite of what you're looking to have, you're going to end up having what they had because that's what they're going to guide you to.
And expect the best for
And you can
yourself.
change doctors.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Remember,
You don't have to
life
mirror somebody else's
is
experience.
value you. Value you.
Value you.
And take as much control as you can upon your journey, and you know,
Absolutely.
we're not going to get into this. I'm sign off. We're going to do another thing, but you know, government has no right to, no authority over your bodies, and nor does any other institution, your church, your whatever. This is your body, your journey, right? And you have to do what's going to be best for you, and so that we can be healthy and whole. And there are other forces around us that can be supportive and can help.
Mhm.
But if those institutions or those people, if they're not supporting, if they're not trying to push, elevate you and get you to a higher level, to get you in
Yeah.
a greater level of peace, if it doesn't give you peace within your spirit and within your mind, and if just being around them just brings anxiety,
Range you.
listen to your body. There are people. There are
If every
people.
time you talk to somebody, they have something negative or
Yes.
discouraging to say,
No.
that's not that's not
No.
help. That's not
No.
support.
No.
And people have to learn to be able to speak up and say that. I appreciate you trying to give me your opinion and telling me about how your birth looks like, but it's actually not helpful to me. And it's actually kind of harmful to me. So I'm going to ask you not to do that, or I'll just talk to you later.
Yeah.
And then you determine when you feel like talking to them, if at all.
Yes. 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 No negative energy, Shannon. And I'm working on
Not
that.
one bit.
Just, people, if you're not bringing, this is a public service announcement. If you're not coming to bring me positive energy, please don't call me, don't email me, don't text me, don't Facebook me, don't Instagram me. If you see me in the street, don't stop me, because I don't have the energy for we got too many negative Nellies around here that are trying to just pull us down, and we
Mhm.
need to begin to start
Because
lifting.
that's where they are.
Yes.
They're sitting down there and they want company.
Mm-mm.
No,
No.
if you want, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help pull you up, but I'm not
That's
gonna
right.
come sit down there with you.
Nope. Nope.
You can decide where you want to go, but I'm not coming down there.
Nope.
I'm not sitting in that darkness. I'm not sitting in that pit. I'm not. No.
Mm-mm.
I give you some guidance. I send you a ladder. I'll show you how to get out, but
Right.
I'm not
Right.
coming in there.
Right. Right. So this is Igniting Hope podcast. Thanks again, Shannon. I'll talk to you real soon. Please reach out to her.
Absolutely.
Reach out to her. If don't sit in your mess, but come and get the help. There's a lot of people out here in this community that want to help you, and so Shannon is one of them. So uh, again, this is Pastor George Nicholas, and I'm going to say good day. We love you. Everything that we do and say here at the Buffalo Center for Health Equity is done because of our unconditional and unapologetic love for you. It's all about,
Yep.
that's what drives
Absolutely.
us. We're not trying to, it's power. No, no, no. It's all about our love for you. And we're going to build this community of care and love here in this Buffalo. And we're going to get healthy, both physically, mentally, and
Absolutely.
spiritually. It's going to
Absolutely.
happen.
Yeah.
But ain't
It
nobody
will.
going to come here and fix it. We got to fix it ourselves. So, and we have everything that
And
we
if
need.
we think of like the work that we're doing now, we're not doing this work for ourselves. We're not doing this for our benefit. We're doing this for the sake of humanity.
And that's right.
In 50, 60, 70, 100 years from now, we want our children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and generations to come to be and live in a space where they are safe, where they are comfortable. They're not worried about, if I ask for help, am I going to be criticized or put into some type of rehabilitation program?
Right.
No, no. We want our daughters from generations to come, like I said, to be in that space where she's pregnant. She know exactly what she's supposed to do, where she's supposed to go, and she knows she's gonna come home with her baby.
Yes. Yes. All right, Shannon. So thank you.
Beautiful.
This is Pastor George Nicholas signing
Thank you
off.
very much, Pastor George, for inviting me.
Oh, you're gonna be on again. So we'll make this work. All right. God bless you all. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.